Today is part 4 of my Ultimate Office Makeover video series. We're going to focus on the closet and organization, and it's going to be an exciting build, so please stick around. Hi, hello, I'm the Cyber Grief Guru. Thank you so much for watching. So today is part 4 of my Ultimate Office Makeover video series. If you have not already watched parts 1, 2, and 3, I will link them above. I've created a playlist for easy access. But in part 1, we went through the design, part 2, we went through the build, and part 3, we talked about some of the home automation and electronics that I did for the office space here. So part 4 is going to be about organization, really focusing on the closet that I have over here, my original plan, and then where I ended up in the end. So the original plan was just a bunch of shelves. And what I found, I built the shelves, I put everything in, and all I had was a bunch of boxes that were well stacked, but not very well organized. I couldn't find anything. I didn't know where things were. I'd have to pull boxes out. I'd have to pull things out of boxes. It was not efficient, not effective, not what I was looking for. So I regrouped and I said, okay, let's go ahead and put some drawers in. Then we will be able to put things in drawers. We'll be able to label the drawers. We will know where things are. I'm going to walk you through how I lined the closet, set up the shelf structure, and then also built the drawers. I'm not going to focus so much on how to build the drawers because there's plenty of videos out there on the internet, but some of the techniques I use to actually make it a lot easier and a lot more efficient. So let's go ahead and cut over to the build video and I'll walk you through exactly what I did. So here we are in Fusion 360. I've done all my modeling in Fusion. If you remember from part 1 of the video series, I walked you through all of the different piece parts of the design, and there was this little cutout in the office which you see here in front of you. Now I've taken away all the rest of the artifacts of the design to keep this specific implementation, this specific design simple. So what we have here is this little U that is in the room, and my original thought pattern was that we would simply add some runners to the wall, these vertical standoffs here, and then I would drill holes in it for pins to hold shelves. The plan was to have a series of 24-inch shelves and 16-inch shelves running up and down the closet. And that is ultimately what I ended up building. But as you remember from the first part of the video, that it just wasn't sufficient. All I ended up with was a bunch of stacked boxes. So I said, let's go ahead and implement some drawers in the closet to provide a little bit of storage that allow me to lay things out and make things readily accessible, and then I can put them in containers and label them, and it'll be a lot more apparent exactly about where things are and what I'm looking for in the closet. So I left the runners in and decided to design in a box that will hold shelves here in the 2 compartments. And what I decided was to separate the box in half to provide a little bit of stability for the MDF that I was going to make the box out of, because it does have a tendency to sag if it's not supported in the middle. So then I went off and designed all of the different drawers. So what you have here are all of the drawers that I designed for the closet. On the left-hand side of the drawer structure, I have a number of drawers that are very thin. They're only about 1.5 inches tall. And then on the right-hand side, I have drawers that are a little bit bigger. They're about 2.5 inches tall. The thought here is I could lay tools out and lay some of my electronic components out in the thinner drawers, and then use the taller drawers to house things like screws, the little combination boxes where you put a bunch of different parts in and you have a lid, and anything else that just requires a little bit more vertical height. So that's what I ended up running with and building this specific design into the closet space. Okay, now that we have the design laid out, I'm going to go ahead and cut over to the build video and show you how I built the drawers and the way that I was able to optimize the building of the drawers to make things go very efficiently, very effectively, and I was able to pound through all of these drawers in a matter of about an hour or so. So let's go ahead and cut over that video. From the previous segment, the runners in the closet that went vertically were just strips of MDF that I cut on the table saw 3 inches wide. It was very straightforward, and the table saw is certainly the tool that does the best job at this. To provide the placement for the vertical runners, I laid all of the boards out on the table saw using the fence, and then aligned the jig against the fence so that the first hole in all of the runners would be in the exact same location for each one of the runners that I was going to use for the shelves. I used the previous hole that I drilled as an index for the subsequent holes, and by using the jig, I create perfectly spaced holes across the entire length of the board, so that the vertical runners will blend in with the rest of the office furniture. I painted them gray on the fronts and the sides. I didn't bother painting the back because no one will ever see that. Off camera, I cut down the sides and the center divider for the box where the shelf will reside. And here I am pre-drilling holes for the center divider to make the installation easier. To start building the shelves themselves, I marked lines on all of the sides where I wanted to put the brad nails. This gave me an excellent reference point for where the brads needed to go. To start the assembly of the drawer itself, I started by laying the bottom piece out and then applying a little bit of glue to one of the sides. I would smooth the glue out a little bit with my finger to make sure that I could get good contact with the side of the bottom. Then I would flip the side up and then run brad nails into the side, starting at one side and slowly working my way to the other side. I pushed down with my hand so the bottom was flat and made sure that I gripped the side so that it was up against the bottom. By driving the brad nails from one side to another, that ensures that the side panel does not have a bow in it and that it lines up perfectly with the front and the back of the drawer. Once the two long sides are in place, you can put the short sides into place simply by adding a little bit of glue and then some brad nails to the side face. To secure the bottom, I put a pin right into the center and then worked my way out from the center to the edges. That ensures that the center is in place and everything is completely flat and secure. Once all of the drawers were built, I marked where the runner will go for the drawer slide, and I did this with my Woodpecker's Pocket T-Square. If you don't have these things, they're amazing and I highly recommend them. I then spent some time pre-drilling all of the holes for the screws. This makes assembling the drawer slides significantly easier and I highly recommend it. To ensure I had the drawer slide runner in the correct location, I cut a little piece of MDF at the exact height that I needed, and then I used that to align the runners for each one of the drawer sides here. In addition to the MDF that I used to create the height, I also created a block that offset the drawer slides by 1/2 inch, which is exactly what I needed for the faces so that the drawers would stand out the proper distance. With all of the drawer slides attached to the drawers themselves, I turned my attention to the box and I created this little jig that allowed me to mark out exactly where the screw holes needed to be for the mating drawer slide components. Once all of the lines were marked and I pre-drilled the intersections, I screwed all of the mating drawer slides into place into the box. Doing it this way was significantly easier than installing the box and then trying to get the drawer slides into place. Highly recommended doing it in advance if you can. Once all the drawer slides were in place in the box, I installed all of the drawers to make sure that they fit properly and they were sliding freely without any issues. It's much easier to adjust all of the slides whenever the unit is on the workbench than when you have it in its final location. After installing all of the drawer slides in the box, with a little assistance from Big Red, I installed the box into the closet and secured it to the wall using 2.5 inch deck screws. Once it was fully secured, I moved on to installing the shelves. making sure everything fit properly and everything continued to be aligned after the final install. To install the faces of the drawers, I created some small spacer blocks, an 1/8 inch reveal for the top and the bottom, and then 3/8 of an inch left and right. To hold the drawer fronts in place while I was securing them, I used some simple spring clamps that worked very well. To attach the drawer fronts, I drilled from the inside of the drawer and then used 3/4 inch screws to attach the faces. I countersunk the screws so that they would be flush with the inside of the drawer. I had a leftover drawer front from the build process, so I used it to create a jig to ensure that the holes for the handles of the drawers would be in the perfect location. I used the spring clamps to attach the jig to the drawer front, and then used the drill to drill a hole through the front. I made sure the hole was a little bit oversized. That allowed me to adjust the handle just a little bit, just in case the screws weren't in the perfect location. Once all the faces were attached and the holes were drilled for the handles, I did some very light sanding with 220 on the faces. I broke the edges of the faces as well, just to make it a little bit easier on the hands. After sanding, I applied a little bit of Otis oil to the faces, just to protect them a little bit from whatever wear and tear they might receive in the closet. Okay, that was the build. I hoped you enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun. It was very hard. It took a lot of time, but it was worth it in the end. You know, I think I said that in the last video that I made, but it's true. It was very hard. It was very difficult, but it was very rewarding, and I got exactly what I was looking for, and that's all that really matters in the end when you're doing things for yourself. So I'm excited by the results. It's going to really work out for me in the end, and I'm just very happy for where we ended up. Okay, so if you like this type of content, please consider giving it a thumbs up. If you don't like the content, or if you have some issue with the content, please consider giving it a thumbs up anyway, but leave your comments down below. Tell us why, so we can make future videos better. If you're not already following me on Instagram, please consider doing so. That's where I post pictures of projects like this. As always, don't forget to be inspired. Today is part 4 of my Ultimate Office video makeover series. No, it's not a video makeover series. All right. Oh, and of course you had to start doing that now, didn't you? Oh, God bless. Today is part 4 of my Ultimate Office video. There, I did it again. I got a video on the brain.